At his peak, Marlon Brando had 8 Oscar nominations and legend status. But if I hadn't been an actor, he wrote, I've often thought I'd have become a con man and wound up in jail.
Marlon basically had no morality. He never developed it.
He added sex scenes without telling female co-stars, delayed his own film to earn $750,000 in overtime, and made enemies which contributed to his downfall. From Jewish people,
I'm very goddamn angry at some of the Jews. Hollywood is run by Jews. It's owned by Jews.
to his 3 ex-wives.
A vindictive person. Pure evil. Pure evil.
Many of his children.
He had something like 17 children.
And his co-star in the film Superman.
I had a wonderful time, but the man didn't care. I'm sorry. He just, took the $2 million and ran,
In the end, Brando lost respect, family, and money, all while gaining £150 and leaving his estate to defend 24 lawsuits. Hi, I'm Ming. I explore brilliant, flawed people and their work. And this truly insane story of Marlon Brando starts when Marlon is fired from a play.
It was the worst experience I ever had in my life. I almost went out of my mind.
According to Marlon's autobiography, which I'll use as a primary source, Marlon is fired for rejecting the advances of co-star Tallulah Bankhead. The next time T. Bankhead goes swimming, Brando wrote at the time, I hope that whales shit on her. God preserve the lizards and let Tallulah die. From Bankhead's perspective, however, it was Marlon who tried everything in the world to ruin it for her, scratching his crotch, picking his nose. And this gives Marlon a reputation.
He was a macho guy. He was a male chauvinist pig. I mean, certainly a feminist would say that, but I would imagine many feminists went to bed with him.
I'm representing WNAC in Boston, and our viewing audience would love to know why you're here and for you to tell us about your latest movie.
How old are you? About 23?
No, I'll be 21 in March.
21 in March.
Yes.
Your hair is over your eyes. We can't see your right eye.
Oh, no, talking from the side of my mouth, and we don't want to do that.
I mean, one woman would knock on his door and she'd find another woman in bed and she'd say, oh, excuse me, I'll come back later.
With women, Brando writes, I've had what you might call a Rolodex life. I enjoy identifying and pushing the right emotional buttons of women, which usually means making them feel they are of value to me and offering them security for themselves and their children. Marlon's womanizing results in 11 confirmed children with 5 women, but it also lands him his breakout role. When Tallulah Bankhead warns playwright Tennessee Williams that Brando is, quote, a total pig of a man without sensitivity or grace of any kind, Williams, who's searching for those qualities, casts Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire, first the play and then the film.
Hey, Stella!
Brando's emotionally raw style sets a new standard for acting, and later wins him his first Oscar.
The winner is Marlon Brando on the waterfront.
But despite revolutionizing acting, Marlon doesn't like it.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's that I hate it. I don't find acting satisfying. That's a waste of life. It's a waste of time. I don't find it stimulating or interesting. It's got a consuming passion.
By the 60s, Brando's movie choices are guided by one thing above all.
I'd make some real dogs. And I did it just for the money.
Mutiny on the Bounty is a production based in Tahiti, scheduled to last 4 months. Brando's contract, however, entitles him to $5,000 for every extra day of filming. And because producers hate delays, Brando writes, actors can use these circumstances to their advantage. During production, Brando requests rewrites, puts plugs in his ears so he can't listen to the director or other actors, and begins, quote, slurring my speech and blowing my lines. If your technique is effective, nobody can prove you're doing it on purpose.
Yes, I am ill. Listen to me for one moment, Joe.
Production then takes 10 months instead of 4, and Brando makes $750,000 in overages, from which he spends $200,000 on this 12-islet atoll.
As I get older, I've become more convinced that a simple way of life is fundamentally more wholesome. I think that richness and success is just so poorly distorts life.
On his islands, Brando practices Tahitian dancing. He marries his mutiny co-star, Terita Terapaya, as his third wife, plays the bongo drums, learns French, and becomes a ham radio operator under the pseudonym Marlon Brando. However, running 12 small islands is not a cheap activity. By 1971,
he was broke at that point. He had no money. He had fucked up completely. Mismanagement of his affairs.
And this hurts Marlon's negotiating leverage on The Godfather. For the movie, he's offered
$50,000 plus 3% or 1.5% of the gross.
However, because Marlon is broke, he sells his box office points back to Paramount in exchange for a higher upfront salary, meaning in the end,
they didn't hardly pay him anything. They paid him like $120,000.
What's the matter with you?
While filming The Godfather, Brando refuses to learn lines, instead having Robert Duvall hold these cue sheets for him and post other lines around the set.
When he had the big scene with Pacino in the garden, he leaned back into his lines on a tree.
Brando also plays pranks, like loading this stretcher with hidden weights and mooning observers during the wedding scene.
Everybody was drinking, and I really got ripped and completely snockered. And so I mooned the audience. It was all Mr. Buffalino's family. And I didn't know that at the time, otherwise I wouldn't have done it.
Marlon's drunk pranks date back to his youth in New York, where during a party in his 11th floor apartment, he, quote, went over to a window, opened it, and shouted to guests, "I'm sick of this world and everything in it. I can't stand you people, I'm sick of this life." I stepped out the window and disappeared. My guests screamed. I hid under the window, giggling. Yet no one was giggling at what Brando did during Last Tango in Paris. This film is notable for two incidents. In the first, Brando and director Bernardo Bertolucci add an unscripted rape scene without informing Brando's co-star Maria Schneider.
The sequence of the butter is an idea that I had with Marlon in the morning before shooting it. But I've been, in a way, horrible to Maria because I didn't tell her what was going on, because I wanted her reaction as a girl, not as an actress. And I think that she hated me and also Marlon because we didn't tell her.
According to Brando, Bertolucci instructs him to, quote, play myself, to improvise completely and portray Paul as if he were an autobiographical mirror of me. However, this is deeply traumatic for Schneider, who says she felt a little raped, both by Marlon and by Bertolucci.
Do you regret the fact that you have shot the scene like you did?
No. But I feel guilty.
For Brando personally, Tango is distressing because it's during this production that his first ex-wife, Anna Kashfi, kidnaps their son. Until now, Brando and Kashfi had fought over Christian for the boy's entire life, with Kashfi even alleging that Brando framed her with an epilepsy diagnosis to win full custody.
I was given a Dilantin, a little white pill, Ritalin, Librium, 2 sleeping pills at night for 3 times a day, and that can do a great deal of harm to your body. And finally it did paralyze me and I went into a coma, and we found out in the process I never had epilepsy. It was all frame up, and they took my child away because of that.
Following this, while Brando films in Paris, Christian goes missing from Brando's house. Brando then hires private investigators, and they locate Christian hidden in a cave near a San Felipe fishing camp in the company of 6 men and 2 women, who claim that Kashfi had brought him to them and promised them $10,000 if they hid Christian. Within days, Brando is granted sole custody of his son, but he's developing another problem.
And the whole family were alcoholics, a family disease. And his way of filling in that loneliness, that terrible loneliness that alcoholics have, was to eat. It's just as simple as that.
After the kidnapping, Marlon starts arriving to films overweight.
And he showed up, as you know, very, very big, so I didn't know how to costume him. I said, well, they don't make Green Beret uniforms in size XXXXX.
In addition to arriving above the agreed weight, on Apocalypse Now, Brando is hired for $1 million a week for 3 weeks and takes advantage of his increased fee.
And then he wanted to talk, and he's such a genius. He's talking about termites and so on. And meanwhile, I'm thinking, my God, I have 3 weeks, 5-day weeks with him, and his contract was at 5 o'clock he left. And I know what he's doing, the son of a gun. He's going to stall the whole 3 weeks. I'm going to have to pay him another 3 weeks. So finally I said to him, I think we ought to do Kurtz like it is in the book. Kurtz is described as having almost a skull-like head, bald and stuff. And he said, no, it wouldn't work. Then on the Friday, which was a week of no shooting, on the Friday morning he shows up and his head is bald. And I said, Marlon, I thought you said it wouldn't work. He said, well, I lied when I said I read the book. I had never read the book. I read it last night.
Ironically, Marlon's performance gives us 10 of the most memorable minutes in screen history.
Horror has a face, and you must make a friend of horror.
While legendary, however, this is pretty much the last time we see Brando truly try at acting.
I just still care, and I just care so much that it hurts when someone's phoning it in. But at this moment, he just isn't motivated.
In Superman, Brando again reads lines from cue cards, from this baby's diaper, and in this shot, a sheet held above the camera.
These are matters of undeniable fact.
In this take, where you can also see Marlon looking up at his lines, he even forgets his son's name.
Only the certain conviction that what has been done is right. Develop such conviction in yourself, Elal, Kal-El, Ralph, whatever your name is.
Just cut. We'll just pick it up.
For this performance, Brando receives the largest paycheck in acting history to date.
$3,300,000, which is what I got up front. But then I have 11.3% of the gross, $14 million for 12 days' work. That's a rather silly movie.
Christopher Reeve, on the other hand, makes only $250,000, or 56 times less than Marlon, despite playing the lead role and working almost every day. And as this interview suggests, he wasn't even aware how much less he was truly getting paid.
Was it exciting to work with him, though? Not really, no. No. I had a wonderful time, but the man didn't care. I'm sorry. He just, took the $2 million and ran.
After Superman, Brando attempts to quit acting again. He retires to Tahiti, stating, "I've never had any respect for Hollywood. It stands for avarice, phoniness, greed, crassness, and bad taste." And as Brando gets older, he becomes particularly upset with Jewish people.
I'm angry with some of the Jews. I'm very goddamn angry at some of the Jews.
When Brando first came to New York, he was taken in by acting teacher Stella Adler and her Jewish family, and he even appeared in a Jewish play called A Flag is Born, which, quote, "as well as my friendship with the Adlers, helped make me a zealous advocate for Israel, and later a kind of traveling salesman for it." But later, Brando's views change.
Hollywood is run by Jews. It's owned by Jews. And they should have a greater sensitivity about the issue of people who are suffering.
CNN doesn't air the full interview, but they do release the transcript, where Brando clarifies his position, stating, "You've seen every single race besmirched, but you never saw an image of the Jew, because the Jews were ever so watchful for that, and rightly so. I will be the first one who will appraise the Jews honestly, and say thank God for the Jews, but I would like that they were more sensitive." However, despite Brando's views on Hollywood, he comes back when he runs out of money again.
Totally legitimate work for $1,000 a week.
In The Freshman, Brando plays a parody of himself, and ironically, it's on this parody gangster movie that Brando extorts his employer.
I want to hear this.
When filming is delayed by a week, Marlon requests an additional $1 million. But TriStar doesn't think he's entitled to the money, so it refuses. And Brando calls the LA Times to trash the movie, stating, "It's horrible, it's going to be a flop, I wish I hadn't finished with a stinker." As soon as the story appeared, Brando writes, "The studio apologized and paid the money I was owed. And I then issued a press release saying I hadn't meant what I'd said." Brando sees this as a win, but it's about to be eclipsed by a tragedy.
What really happened between Christian Brando and Dag Drollet the night of bloodshed at Brando's.
On May 16, 1990, Brando's son Christian shoots his pregnant sister Cheyenne's boyfriend, Dag Drollet, at Marlon's house on Mulholland Drive.
He said, "I killed Dag." And I said, what are you talking about? And he said, "He's dead, Pop. I didn't mean to do it. He went for the gun and it went off. I loved Dag. He was going to be the father of my grandchild."
Christian pleads guilty to voluntary manslaughter and is sentenced to 10 years in prison. He serves 5, and during his time earns a high school equivalency diploma. His sister, on the other hand, struggles. After the shooting, Cheyenne is diagnosed with schizophrenia. Made worse by substance addictions, she is legally declared mentally disabled, and her new son, Tukey, is removed from her custody. Having lost her son and boyfriend, and with her half-brother in prison, Cheyenne takes her own life.
Cheyenne is doing her best. Excuse me. Sorry.
While Marlon is clearly affected, he doesn't attend Cheyenne's funeral and begins his own downward spiral. He takes occasional acting jobs because they're still, quote, "the best way I know to make a lot of money in a short time." In The Island of Dr. Moreau, Brando covers himself in zinc, acts with an ice bucket on his head to, quote, "keep cool," and demands that a 2'4" actor named Nelson De La Rosa appear beside him in a matching outfit at all times.
Look at these people! Look at him!
Outside of films, Marlon hangs out in AOL chat rooms, pretending to be all sorts of people, with his account frequently being banned for telling others to F off. He files patents for bongo drum tensioning devices, and increasingly hangs out with his old friend, Michael Jackson. According to Brando's son Miko, who worked as Jackson's bodyguard, Marlon liked Neverland because he had a 24-hour chef, 24-hour security, 24-hour help, 24-hour kitchen, and 24-hour maid service. But all these conveniences only worsen Marlon's health problems.
He had us do things like chain up the refrigerator. Well, we found out the next day that he had called someone and had a dozen Big Macs thrown over the fence into his yard so he could have a midnight dinner.
When Marlon's weight approaches 375 pounds, he develops a way to go to the toilet without leaving his bed.
He had several things under the bed. He had the .38 pistol. I understand he also had a shotgun, but he also had his piss bottle. He didn't want to get up and walk the 6-7 feet over here to the bathroom.
And as Marlon deteriorates, the piranhas show up. On the 18th of June 2004, Marlon's will suspiciously changes. 3 new executors are named, including a businessman and also Mike Medavoy, who ran TriStar following its fallout with Marlon Brando. People who knew Marlon claim these new executors are
total strangers in Marlon's life, who've come out of the woodwork and are presenting themselves as the best friend of Marlon Brando.
What's more, Marlon's signature on his amended will doesn't match his signature elsewhere.
This signature is not the same as that signature. Signed on the same day, 18th of June, 2004, 2 weeks before his death.
Brando's friend Scott Billups suspects
drugs. They drugged him. The people that locked the gate. And the codes didn't work anymore. I think it was engineered. I don't know if he was killed, but I know it was helped. Nobody was preventing it.
13 days after the will change, Marlon dies of respiratory failure. More than 24 parties then sue his estate, including Brando's former assistant, Alice Marshak. It is an undisputed fact that Marlon owed me money, she writes. Therefore, upon his death, this circumstance required me to sue Marlon's estate. I'm certain, knowing Marlon as I did, that under these circumstances he would have wanted me to do so. To fund the disputes and pay creditors, Marlon's estate sells off his assets. His neighbor, Jack Nicholson, buys his house, and development rights to Tetiaroa are sold for $2 million. Today, the atoll is home to a resort of 35 villas starting at $5,200 a night. But it's also home to Marlon's ashes. I finally feel free, he wrote in his later years. I can finally be the child I never had a chance to be. What you make of that child is up to you. And if you want more stories of brilliant, flawed people, subscribe.